follow up on the one for the other day, and just kind of got into the question. Just think about just how political was Star Trek really? You know, even back in the day, I think, because it keeps getting thrown. Oh, they're always political. They always did political issues. Well, yes and no. Political in the sense that there were major issues being argued at the time. There was, societal changes. Equal rights, the Vietnam War, and other things. But it was really not really political. As you'd never find an allegory to say LBJ. They never took on the politics of the day, Again, except the fact when the politics, they hit these large moral issues, what kind of society do we want to be type of thing. But, trying to think of, the 60s were a weird time, because a lot of the issues I talked about were the big, broad, societal, cultural issues of the time, so trying to find something they didn't tackle because it was just sort of petty. But it's like the closest they really got, I think, to an overtly political thing was, a Private Little War. This keeps getting brought up because it's the most glaring example. Where they, as directly as they can, reference the Vietnam War. They're referred to as the Asian Brush Wars of the late 20th century. But anyone paying attention, they're talking about Vietnam. Which was very much if not forbidden, it was like, you better watch what you're saying, Sparky. And that's probably a big reason why, in the end, if you think about it, Kirk is actually arguing in favor of being engaged. They say it's an ugly, disgusting business. People are dying left and right that shouldn't be, but, we have to be in there because the other side is in there. And we got, maintain this balance in order, to maintain life, Because, if we pull out, everyone dies. If we arm our side with nukes, everyone dies, and we never would, it would escalate in full-out war between us and the Soviets, that sort of thing. So, that's about as close as they got. You had a few things, like the Enterprise incident was inspired by, I don't know how many people know about this. There was a real good TV movie done back in the 70s, over a televised play, but the Pueblo incident. It's available on YouTube. It was an thing on ABC. Hal Holbrook, I forgot he was in it. But basically, it was around 1968 or so. And there was a U.S. spy ship, the USS Pueblo, that was grabbed by our friends, the North Koreans, for spying. And the argument was, we were in international waters. They, kind of violated things by, and their crew was brutally tortured. They still have the ship. They still got the Pueblo, moored up in, North Korean harbor like a war trophy. And that was, the currently in the headlines. So, the reason why it's called the Enterprise incident, because it was the Pueblo incident. But that's as far as it went. What it really was Dorothy Fontana wanting to do an episode of Mission Impossible with the Star Trek group. They didn't go to the ramifications of us spying on North Korea or one of our ships being taken. It was really surface stuff, So it served as a springboard, but it wasn't a political statement. Now, fast forward here, to Discovery here, and the rest of the series took pretty much the same approach. You dealt with issues very broadly and on a societal, moral basis. Not we don't like the guy in office right now. We're going to run him out of town. Again, fast forward to Discovery, where they make overt statements that the Klingons are meant to represent Trump supporters. With some of the statements, remain Klingon type thing, but they're supposed to be a direct thing to make America great again. That's a different take. A big thing is that even Roddenberry knew half of his audience were Republicans, okay? And you need all of the audience, as precarious a position as Star Trek was in. You needed all of the audience. So there also goes the thing of, make them think, but don't tell them how to think. You're just going to piss off half of your audience, and then you'll be nowhere. You can be as righteous and indignant as you want. If you got no audience, you got no show, and no one cares what you say. But yeah, I think I might dig a little deeper and see if there was anything. Because the 60s, of course, were a very big time. I think The Way to Eden, trying to deal with the hippies at the time. That's also probably one of the few times where you really are dealing with the politics of the day. I don't think Dr. Severn and his followers came across as all that positive here. Dr. Severn kind of stand in for Timothy Leary. And I don't know if the Manson family had happened at that point. I didn't check the dates there, but I think that it comes across more as a Charlie Manson type with his little cult of followers doing his bidding. If it wasn't, then it's a case of, once again, Star Trek being a little prescient on that fact and talking about something that hadn't quite happened yet. It's like how DS9 is very applicable today with the War on Terror type thing. It hadn't happened yet. But there's a lot of stuff they bring up that, wow, what crystal ball are they looking into? Let's see, there's kind of glare here. Check something here. There you go. A little better. Yeah. Yeah, let's discuss that a little bit. I mean, any original series episodes that I think get a little closer to actual political thing, as in going after that. At that time, it's like it would have been all Lyndon Johnson. So like Nixon didn't get elected until '69, and well after Star Trek had been canceled. So that the last episode of Star Trek was in June of 1969. And that had been, it was Turnabout Intruder. It had been preempted. It had like a couple weeks after what would have been its normal time slot. And a little how times have changed. It drew in ratings that Discovery would kill for. Now, that was what Star Trek got canceled on. Like, that was Star Trek at its lowest point in network. It drew over 8 million viewers. And now Discovery can't even draw flies. In fact, that's one thing I've done. A little side note here. That 3-volume series, These Are the Voyages, that I'm blanking the name. Mark, because something we didn't really know until it was only fairly recently they actually released the actual ratings numbers for that time period. Because for the longest time, all we knew, it was always on the edge of that. It turns out, no, it wasn't. Star Trek actually did very well. Oftentimes it won the night. But it always was generally a good solid second place in the night. So maybe in the end of the year rundown, it was a little down the pack, but on a week-to-week basis, Star Trek did very well. It was not the ratings disaster they were pretending it was. They were doing that to keep Roddenberry in line. Again, that little sword of Damocles thing I keep referencing. To try and say, hey, you're kind of iffy here because the network always reserves the right to just cancel the show outright. There's been the TV landscape is littered with shows that get canceled after one episode. I was in a few got canceled before they even aired. But I think now, because again, context is everything. A lot of the NBC's animosity goes back to when they had to deal with him with the lieutenant, because he kind of embarrassed them over that one episode with the Dennis Hopper and Shawn Nichols, and I'm blanking on the guy again, but he played Lieutenant Bowman in the Galileo 7. He was their little prejudice episode of the Lieutenant. They didn't want to air it because that's how the markets would rebel. He lost the cooperation of the Pentagon because they were filming at Camp Pendleton for stuff, but that's like, nope. So I had to go back to the studio backlot, and It was no longer actual Marines doing drills. It was extras being trained by Roddenberry himself on how to do a close order drill. But he got the NAACP to say, hey, this is absolutely needs. So he kind of embarrassed them, and they held a grudge. Okay, they remember this guy. And Roddenberry didn't do much to ingratiate himself with them during the course of Star Trek either. Yeah, NBC, it started, that's why it was rather important that Herb Solow did the pitch for NBC, or Star Trek. And Roddenberry just sat there and looked weird. That was about the director orders, just sit there and look weird. I'm not sure how well Herb Solow knew that they had been dealing with Roddenberry. So, you want to deal with this guy again? No. But yeah, they were interested in more progressive leaning towards shows at the time. They wanted, They wanted, ethnic diversity in the shows, and they didn't mind. Female leads was not a new thing at the time either. It was like Loretta Young had a show. Barbara Stanwyck had her own show. The Barbara Stanwyck show. Her name during the time, and they said they would have loved to have had any other actress as number one. They would have bought it. They didn't want to make the deal with Roddenberry's girlfriend, and they knew she was hanging all the time with Lieutenant. For God, it's his girlfriend. Come on, that's something Solo wasn't aware of. So well, let's bring this back on the topic here. So, because someone's going to bring a "Let That Be Your Last Battlefield." But again, that's taken, race relations, and that kind of goes to more they really just go more to the overall cultural morality type thing, because it's an issue that's been dealt with from the beginning of time, from the time we start to notice, hey, he's different than I am. What do we do? And the unfortunate instinct is kill it. But you didn't have, not really directly correlating anything like with the Equal Right, the Voting Act, or the Civil Rights Act. I think by then both of those laws have been in effect for years. So, yeah. Let's discuss. Let's take this down below here in the discussion part and see what we come up with. Because while, Star Trek did spark a lot of political thought, the show in and of itself wasn't that really political, Not in the way people think of it today, where they're taking on, directly taking on issues of the day. It was never really of the day. I think there was an eye. It's like, we want this thing to do well in syndication. We can be a little more evergreen than that. It's like, we got things to say, but we want to be able to not be dated. That was another thing. Why doing orchestral scores. That makes it same reason that Star Wars did not have a disco soundtrack. George Lucas said, it wants to be a little more timeless here, so an orchestral score that immediately removes it from any particular period. And same thing with Star Trek. They have pretty, orchestral, soundtracks. There's very little on there that says 1960s. I think it really starts and ends with the bongos, in the background of the theme song. And really, that's really 60s. The songs in The Way to Eden are really more folky, Yeah, let's hammer this one out. And again, contrasted that with the way they think they're honoring Star Trek today by going straight into the political realm, and that is where I think the SJW criticism comes in, because the SJW approach is everything is political. Very hyper political. Must be, you must dive into us too, or you're an ignorant slob, and Neanderthal, a racist, homophobic, whatever. And frankly, a lot of, again, to come into our fandom and start preaching to us about this stuff is insulting, because we've been here for decades. Where the hell were you? Oh yeah, you hadn't been born yet. And history begins with you, right? But it's kind of taken the, don't trust anybody over 30 to an extreme of, don't even listen to them or what they might have to say. It's like, come on. I like to take some of these little twerps and sit them down and make them watch the show before they start, oh, I know, but no, you don't. You didn't watch it, do you? You think Kirk just ran around breaking rules and screwing green chicks every day, right? Wrong! Sit down and actually watch a few episodes, okay? I'll give you a select few of ones to avoid, to avoid confusion. But for the most part, just start with the pilots, but really kick into high gear with the Corbomite maneuver. Stay in production order. This fascinates with air date order. I never understood because it was totally arbitrary. It was based on what was available now, not as a. But just actually watch the damn show before I start trying to tear it over. And you might understand just why the hell it's managed to stick around for 50 years with as dedicated fan base as it's got. And with that, PayPal, Patreon down below. I'm debating whether to start including my post office box in this. Mainly because I'm not quite entirely sure how long we're going to have that post office box. I mean, it is paid up, through, but I'm just thinking, if we finally get a settlement, we got moving. I don't know what that thing like right out there. And I also know anything about now. Please send me stuff. Because also the situation, if I really there's not a lot I can really take on right now. Because it probably goes straight into storage. Although frankly, I could use a few books. Anyway, PayPal, Patreon, yada 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 down below. Help is always encouraged and appreciated. Catch you later.